In this lesson, we're going to be doing combining polynomials. If you were there in the classroom, I went over the first part already, but I'll do it one more time. You can see that this is the vocab page, so if you haven't copied those down, please go ahead and refer back to this page as needed. We've already talked about what a coefficient is, what a constant is. If you forgot, it's the number without a variable. Coefficient, remember, is the number in front of the variable. And the exponent on top can also be referred to as the degree for a term within a polynomial. So if you don't know what a term is basically one power that we have looked at before. So coefficient, variable, exponent, we can refer to that as power, or we can refer to that as a term. If you put more than one term together, what you get is a polynomial. And if you look down below, you can see if you have one term, it's a monomial. Two terms, you have a binomial. And three terms, we call that a trinomial. Anything more than three terms, we just refer to as generically as a polynomial. Now, the cool thing is if you look at the exponents, there's lots of exponents in a polynomial. So what we say is the degree of the polynomial is the one with the largest exponent. So you just have to take a look and see which one is the degree. So in the binomial, I have a power 2 and I have a power 7. So for that binomial, its degree is 7. So just keep in mind that when we're looking at the exponents, it's the largest exponent when we talk about the degree of the polynomial. The other part is standard form. So we say standard form, we want our exponents to be in descending order, which means from largest to smallest, but we also put them in alphabetical order. So if x comes before y, or in this case for the binomial, a comes before b, then we have to take a look at what is the order of the letters. Okay, we're probably not going to be doing a whole lot with mixed letters. Ours will be single letters like the x's or just the y's. Here's an example of putting these into standard form. So if you notice, the original notes had those terms jumbled up, and what we did was we went ahead and combined the terms in order. So the highest exponent being power 3 for 5x to the third, and then negative x squared, and then minus 4x, which if you notice, it does have a 1 on top. Yours did not have one written there, but again, it's understood to be there. And then the constant, which had no variable, so that's the 3. And because 3 was positive, there was no negative in front of it, we put a plus sign to show that it was a positive 3. Okay. In the second example, we did the exact same thing. We just went ahead and made sure that these were in the correct order. So this is your standard form for polynomials. These two right here are going to be the standard forms on the example on the left and also on the right. Okay, the next section here is combining polynomials. If you want to distribute, regroup like terms together, and combine terms, so make sure that your answer is in standard form. And so you can see that here is an example where there is one that has a I do, and we talked about this in one of the classes. So take a look at the polynomials. You notice that there's parentheses around two trinomials, and then you also have a plus sign in the middle. So there's the first trinomial, here's the second trinomial, and the plus sign in the middle tells me that I'm going to be adding these two polynomials together. So one way to do this is to organize them according to their exponents. So if you see there's a power 3, there's a power 2 here and here, and then there's a x with a power 1, okay? And what I'll do is I'll go ahead and underline these ones differently so you can see how they look. And if you notice, the very last one here is your constant. So there is at least one number that has no variable. And so what you're doing is you're putting them in order according to what the exponents are. So if you have 4x squared, we have a positive 6x squared. Oh, excuse me, back that up. This was a 4x cubed, power 3. 6x squared plus 2x squared. Then you had a 7x with a negative 9x, and then plus 1. So notice how I put them together. And so if I'm going to organize these according to their exponents, there's only two that we're actually going to combine. So we're going to end up here with 4x to the third. We're going to have a positive 8x squared, and then we'll have a negative 2x with a plus 1. And this is my standard form answer with that polynomial added together. Take a moment and see if you can try the next one. All right, so if you've paused and made sure that you tried that one, you could also take a look at doing something called a stack method. So if you notice, the first polynomial here has an x squared, has a x term and an x term, and then both of these have a constant. So I'm going to show you the stack method, which is this. Take the first polynomial and write it on top of the second polynomial. And if you notice, they line up according to the exponents and coefficients, and as long as you put them one on top of each other and line up the exponents, it becomes pretty easy to see. You have an x squared term that's going to have a negative, or excuse me, a positive 2 in front, because 3 minus 1. And now I have a negative 4 and a positive 1, which is negative 3x. And the last one is the constant, so negative 9 plus 1, or 1 minus 9 would be negative 8. And there you go. There's your completed answer. So if you did the first method, which was grouping them and then combining like terms, or stacking them, I like the stack method much better. Here is some polynomials with some minus signs in them now. So if you see it, basically we have two polynomials, and in between there is this minus. So what we're going to do with the minus sign is we are going to distribute. And if you look at what's actually happening here, we have a negative 1 that's in front of the second parenthesis. So we're technically distributing a negative 1 times 6, a negative 1 times 1, and a negative 1 times a positive 8. And what you end up with, using the stack method, I'm going to put those answers underneath the first polynomial, is negative 6x squared. Here is a negative 1x, and negative 1 times 8 gives me negative 8. And by stacking them underneath the answers to the distribution underneath the first polynomial, these actually work out kind of nice, because now I can see 4 minus 6, negative 2, and then don't forget it's x squared. Now I have 5 minus 1, which is going to give me a positive 4x, and then 1 minus 8, which is negative 7. So here's my final answer, and this is going to be my standard form with the exponents in order. So negative 2x squared plus 4x minus 7. Take a moment, see if you can do the other one. I'll let you pause and do that right now. All right, perfect. I'm assuming that you already have distributed this negative 1 to these terms here. And if you did that, notice the first one says power 3. So that's going to be the negative 1 x to the third. Negative 1 times 8 is going to be a positive 8x with a power 2. And then I'm going to have negative times a positive, which is a negative 11. You notice that negative 11 doesn't have an x. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that one and move it over just a little bit. Just enough to make room to say that there is no x term here, but what I do have is a positive 11. So in my answer, using the stack method, you're going to end up with 4 terms. So here's 2 minus 1, which is 1x to the third. Here's 5 and 8, which is a positive 13x, and this is supposed to be a square there. That negative 3x is just going to come straight down from the first polynomial. So this is going to be a minus 3x. And then notice this 11, this is the constant we got when we multiplied negative 1 times positive 11. So that's just going to be, oh, I just noticed. Hopefully you didn't have that. Hopefully you had negative 11. Okay. So if you had negative 11 at the end, wow, I can't get my pen to work here. So this would be your final answer. So one more time, this is your standard form. And as you can see, that one's going to have 4 terms because we didn't have an x term to combine and we didn't have a constant to combine. So these two ended up just being singletons. There was nothing to combine for those 2 terms. All right, guys, that should do it. Hopefully you have enough information to do your assignment. The assignment is going to be, I'm going to skip these ones here. The assignment is 5.4. Do your best with them, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask questions when you come in on Monday. Have a great weekend.